What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. We've got a little bit of a special episode for this series today because every single champion that we've taken a look at so far in our What Could Have Been episodes have all been champions that were designed later than 2013, and for those of you who don't know, the reason why that is because there's really just a lot more information that's publicly available about champions that were released during that time, and Lux is a very old champion. But that being said, we got some awesome information, and a lot of you guys might not know this, but Lux's release might have been probably the most controversial release of League of Legends history. So join us today in taking a look back before her release to find out what Lux could have been. And of course, we've brought on a little bit of a special guest, some of you guys might know as the premier Lux expert of the community. To help me out with this video, it's going to be my good friend, LilyPichu. So big thanks to Lily for helping me out on the video. And jumping right into it, Lux was originally designed to be a spell-based caster sort of champion that used light-based magic to bind and blow up her enemies, while also having a lot more of like a stealthy aspect and being able to stealth her allies. When she first appeared on the test realm, the immediate response from the community actually was that her champion model was way below Riot's standards, and well, if you take a look at it, you can see for yourself that it was honestly just pretty ugly. Riot JLeave, the designer for Lux at the time, stepped forward and said that Riot were going to make some changes to her model to address the complaints, but they also needed to take another look at her kit because on the test realm, in testing her gameplay, they realized that it was actually quite overpowered. So of course, joining us today to give us the finer details on Lux's original kit is LilyPichu. So Lily, walk us through it.
Hi guys, it's Lux's #1 fan here. So for the most part, Lux's kit had the same basic stuff that she still has today. She had the double bind on Q, AoE damage on her E, and a huge laser for an ultimate that hits like a truck. The big difference was her W. It used to be called Prismatic Wave, and it was a single line skill shot that would stealth every ally that it hit. It was pretty overpowered because some champions like Annie or Gallia would just be unbeatable if they could sneak up on you in stealth. On top of that, it also gave Lux up to 15% cooldown reduction for free, so it was easily the most busted part of her original spells, and Riot basically decided that they should never put anything like that in the game ever again. Most champions in the game just aren't balanced in a way that makes it fair for them to get stealth, and I mean, putting that on a basic ability is just crazy. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing Riot did with Lux's first redesign was to fix the Prismatic Wave from her original kit by stopping it from stealthing her entire team. They changed it into a boomerang that would fly out and then come back again, and it gave magic resistance to all the allies that it hit. I guess they still thought stealth was a cool mechanic for Lux, so they made it so Lux would get stealth for a little while when it returned to her, which would have probably been okay and pretty cool to use in the game if they balanced her around it. The rest of her abilities were mostly unchanged. She got a couple of little tweaks to make up for losing her insane W, like getting vision on enemies with her passive debuff and the blind for anyone that actually managed to survive her laser. Also, for some reason, Riot decided to confuse everyone by changing her Lucent Singularity to be on W, her Light Binding to be on E, and the changed W to now be on her Q. I think Riot had a really bad habit of changing ability positions around a lot back in those days.
And yeah, I mean, after the original announcement of Lux, the community backlash was actually so outrageous that after announcing her release, announcing her kit, her model and everything, Riot decided to go completely back to the drawing board and do a complete redesign for her. And during that redesign of her, they really wanted to go back and fix, of course, the outdated model, and as well, Riot decided that they would fix the problems within her original gameplay kit while they were at it. So they made some changes, and then actually teased the rest of the community with a preview of her redesigned kit, lore, her in-game model, and her artwork. And guess what? It still wasn't actually up to standards. After being announced the second time, the community backlash was again so outrageous. They really hadn't fixed anything about it. It's still gross to look at, and honestly, you can go all the way back, look at forum posts from 2010, and people are just going ham on this design. And honestly, they are tearing Riot to shreds. I mean, if you think the backlash from sandbox mode was bad, you guys haven't played when Lux was released. A lot of the complaints were mostly targeted at the design of her face and the rest of her appearance as well. I mean, the fact that she kind of wore like a breastplate and all this armor on the top half of her body, but then like a mini skirt with really weird colors. And honestly, overall, the entire style kind of just clashed with each other, and it just wasn't that good to look at. I mean, it's clear that Riot wanted to make like a feminine champion that was still, you know, empowered in herself, but the original Lux design was an absolute disaster, even after redesigning it completely. And what made it even worse was that in the lore, Riot portrayed Lux as this really sophisticated, you know, prestigious, important, you know, powerful woman, but her model and her artwork made her just look like someone, well, to put it lightly, someone who wasn't that, and it really didn't do Lux justice at all. And as far as the Lux development mess-ups went, it seems like only the art department had really dropped the ball actually, because Lux's first redesigned kit was actually pretty close to what we're familiar with today. And since they were never really going to get away with barely changing her awful model, and the community backlash was again just so unbelievably terrible, Riot were pressured into completely redesigning her after fully announcing her again a second time. So that's 2 complete redesigns after being originally announced and then announced again before she was even released, until they found something that the community and the Rioter team was finally happy with, and they thought the community would be happy with as well. So the redesign, it's a little bit of an interesting story. This redesign was actually based off of a piece of fan art by someone named Katie DeSouza, who some of you guys might actually know, because Riot were so impressed with Katie's work that they actually ended up hiring her, and she became known as Riot Tea Time, who has been contributing hugely to champion concepts ever since. I mean, most notably, just off the top of my head, Riot Tea Time made the concept art for the piece that eventually inspired Jinx all these years later, and it was that piece of fan art that inspired the final and complete version of Lux, and it also got her a job, so I mean, that just speaks for itself. It also seemed like at this point after the second redesign that her kit was way more balanced overall, at least compared to her original kit of course, and actually it might have been a little bit cool to see Lux temporary stealthing herself to maybe land some sneaky binds or ultimates or stuff like that, and it really kind of worked a little bit more thematically with this sort of like stealth mage sort of character she kind of was, but I guess Riot decided that putting stealth on a mage was a mechanic that was just never going to be okay, because to go along with Lux's new look, they revamped her kit once again and moved the abilities back to the old location, so snare on her Q, boomerang on the W, time bomb on the E, and they removed the stealth from her W and just turned it into a straight up shield that applied twice, you know, once for each time it touched Lux or an ally. And well, that's actually Lux's kit today, almost 6 years later. So it turns out that in redesigning Lux's abilities twice, they ended up with a pretty good job at the end of it. So at the end of the day, it does seem like Riot had a pretty solid idea for Lux's design because, you know, it's been 6 years and Lux has actually held up quite well. But at the time, they did really want to make the stealth mechanic sort of idea work. I mean, she's kind of like a light-based sort of champion, and her thematics were designed around being sort of stealthy a lot actually at the beginning, and or at least the original lore, it's still kind of a very significant part of it. And so I want to give a huge thanks to LilyPichu for joining us to help talk about her favorite champion Lux today. Definitely check out her channel, there's going to be a link in the description as well as an annotation on your screen. And if you guys have any thoughts about what maybe a stealthy Lux would have been like to play with in the current game, definitely let us know in the comment section below, and looks like that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.